This Assange story is written by our friend Eliza Bleu. Now, again, there's going to be action in DC on October 8th. She's going to talk about that.
Yep.
Eliza Bleu, in a publication called Human Events, and this got picked up because it was shared by everybody around us, and she wrote a phenomenal article, and it's a little bit long, and stick with us, and I thought it was super important to cover this as a survivor of human trafficking, Eliza. The political persecution of Julian Assange reveals a threat to American principles. Again, this is going to take a little bit to get through. Free Julian Assange.
Yep.
Again, this is her
you
words.
Have to say that every time Indy says free Julian Assange, you have to take a shot.
Now. Free Julian Assange now. In April of 2020, during the first COVID lockdowns, I spoke out about my personal experience to a journalist for the first time. Again, this is Eliza Bleu. In sharing my name, face, and story as a survivor of human trafficking, I became a public survivor. That isn't a decision made lightly, as it carries risks and can be emotionally and physically exhausting. But the reward is in being a voice for the voiceless and an example for others in their path of healing. Speaking to the world through the press requires trust. Trust in the journalists to be honest and to keep their word on any agreements. Trust in the publications to print the information and avoid censorship. And trust in the public and press alike to uphold the freedom of the press. I'd previously only told my story a few times to those close to me personally who'd built trust, survivor advocates, workers at a safe house, and fellow survivors. Once I made the decision to go public, I figured out very quickly that I needed to set a cornerstone of core principles for myself. My core principles guide me when I feel lost and I need to get back home. They remind me of who I am and what I believe. They help me cut through the noise. I believe in the truth. I believe in free speech. I believe that all humans should have the opportunity to be truly free. I believe the free press and whistleblower protections help secure that freedom. These are just a few of the core principles that help ground me in my service as a public survivor leader and survivor advocate. When these are threatened, I must speak out, and now is that time. Again, this is Eliza Bleu. You can see below. Julian Assange is the editor and publisher of the website WikiLeaks, created in 2006. He published whistleblower documents as a journalist. Now Assange, on top of his other charges, has been indicted on 17 new charges in the U.S. relating to the Espionage Act. Julian Assange is an Australian. Most cases up to this point, brought under the Espionage Act, have been against government employees who access sensitive information and leaked it to journalists and others. The Associated Press reported that the indictment raised concerns about media freedom, as Assange's solicitation and publication of classified information is a routine job journalists perform. I can't stress that enough. There are terrible consequences when journalists can't publish information related to public safety and in the public interest. Sometimes I wonder, what if Julian Assange had been free and leaked documents exposing Epstein many years ago? Julian Assange might have been one of the only ones capable of handling a drop like that while protecting the anonymity of the source. We need a free press, whistleblower protection, and free speech in order to speak out in situations like that. My work as a survivor advocate for those affected by human trafficking does sometimes intersect with celebrities, the ruling class, government offices, and officials around the world and in the U.S. I want to be able to look my fellow survivors in the eye and be able to tell them that I did everything that I could to fight for them. How could I do this if the systems that should be in place to protect them are broken? I can see that they are broken when I look at the case of Julian Assange. His experience is a terrifying example to me of what our government will do to you if you embarrass them or challenge their power. That is a powerful, powerful sentence right there. The message they are sending is clear. If you embarrass the ruling class, you will not have whistleblower protection. You will not have the opportunity to have a free press, and you will not get free speech. I made the decision to advocate for the freedom of Julian Assange as well, because ultimately, if I don't advocate for him now, survivors might pay the price later when they decide to step forward. I could not sit silently and watch fundamental human rights stripped from him. The importance of the freedom to write and publish information that may be inconvenient to the powerful has become even more clear to me recently as I started writing articles related to human trafficking and survivor issues. This week, the intersection of all these issues became very clear. An FBI whistleblower stepped forward. New whistleblower information reveals that the FBI is moving agents off of child sexual abuse investigations to instead pursue political investigations.
Yep.
The whistleblower recounted being told that child sexual abuse investigations were no longer an FBI priority.
No, of course not.
Quote, these types of issues are exactly what the American people deserve to know about. Fewer people will have the courage to speak out, and publications will shy away from sharing their statements and evidence if they face harsh penalties under the law for doing so. And here is the House Judiciary GOP releasing a tweet breaking. New whistleblower information reveals that the FBI is moving agents off of child sexual abuse investigations to instead pursue political investigations. The whistleblower recounted that being told that, like they said, quote, child sexual abuse investigations were no longer an FBI priority, unquote.
Pause. Go back. What do they deem political investigations?
The Trump investigation. Mar-a-Lago.
Sure, but what other, like...
That's basically what they're talking about. But I'm sure that's probably investigating Matt Gaetz and everyday run-of-the-mill financial corruption.
Sure. But why take from the fucking, like, child sexual abuse and like to do that?
So this is a 4-page letter or a 3-page letter that was sent by the House Judiciary Committee to Chris Wray, who is the FBI director. I'm not going to read it. You can read it there. The imprisonment of Julian Assange and lack of support for most journalists and press institutions angers many from all walks of life. I reached out to a variety of people for comments about this case. So I'm going to show you what some of these statements are, and they're going to be from people that you don't necessarily know or agree with or like. Well, we do know our friend. We do like Tim Dillon. We know who he is.
Tim Dillon's pretty all right.
He's disturbed by the.
He could be.
He's got some weird takes.
Sometimes he's weird.
But he's. It's all fake business. Is still one of the best routines
specifically,
ever.
Yes. He was he became a comedian, but at one point he gave predatory loans during the first recession. He was part of that like housing bubble predatory loan nonsense, and he sold those. There's a whole bit about how he would do that and what that meant. So
Mad Mama
he's now
now
become like,
there's the link, honey. Thank you.
He's talked to Whitney Webb, that kind of stuff. But yeah, he goes hard. He's good.
So Tim Dillon says he's disturbed by the lack of media coverage of Assange's situation. Quote, the media's silence on the treatment of Assange is criminal. They're not concerned with free speech. They gleefully celebrate the censorship of their political enemies. Assange is being tortured by the most powerful forces on earth, and they remain largely silent. Attorney Robert Barnes, he's famously representing clients like the 8 Covington High School students, and he's also worked with Alex Jones and was part of Kyle Rittenhouse's defense team. He calls Assange's indictment shameful and points out that it sets a dangerous precedent. The shameful indictment of Julian Assange effectively makes it a crime to publish whistleblower reports of deep state secrets. Deep state and poses an imminent risk to investigative reporting that exposes deep state crimes, said Barnes. Michael Malice, author of The Anarchist Handbook, a reader unauthorized biography of Kim Jong II, the whole thing, soon to be released. Okay, he's got a bunch of pointed out the twisted culture surrounding the concept of free speech amongst media professionals. Quote, The fact that Taylor Lorenz is regarded as more of a free speech martyr than Julian Assange by many reporters reveals what? Where their loyalties and parties lie. Getting pinged. Let me shut down that browser. Whatever. Facebook. Cool. Anyway, okay, next, Malice. Jeff Young. We know Jeff Young running for Senate or for Congress in Kentucky, 6th District, appalled by Assange's persecution, calling him a hero. Quote, as a Democratic nominee for the U.S. House of Representatives in Kentucky's 6th Congressional District, I'm appalled by the persecution of Julian Assange, an Australian citizen, by my government in Washington. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks are heroes for exposing the numerous crimes committed by the U.S. government and many other individuals all over the world. WikiLeaks is a publisher of information that was provided by other people. Nothing they have ever published has ever been shown to be factually false. And WikiLeaks has been careful never to reveal the identity of any spies. Quote, if Assange is in prison for life and dies in prison, investigative reporting itself will be threatened all over the world. If President Biden refuses to order Attorney General Merrick Garland to drop all legal actions against Julian Assange, Congress should impeach the president and remove him from power for attacking the First Amendment and the practice of journalism. That goes hard. Yeah. Amen, Jeff Young. Next, author of Victim to Black Victor, identifying the ideologies, behavioral problems, and cultural norms that encourage a victimhood complex. Journalist Adam B. Coleman, again, someone we probably disagree with. Julian Assange was one of the first examples made by the political establishment and deep state actors that truly grabbed my attention. Watching the media turn him into a pariah that deserves his imprisonment never mixed well with accusations that were levied against him. We often talk about evil actors in faraway places, but I was watching our government flex their international might not only to degrade his namesake, but also to force him into years of solitude for doing exactly what we claim a free nation would promote. The centering of truth so the people can challenge the behavior of the authority. Okay, Sarah Higdon, again, I don't know who she is. Eliza has been citing all these people. Okay, Assange's extradition is absurd given that he's not an American citizen. Prosecuting Assange for simply posting information that others gave him is to take away his rights to free speech and free press, which he doesn't really even have necessarily rights to because he's not bound by American law.
Non-American, right.
To have a non-American extradited to face punishment for violating American laws is absurd. Imagine if Iran tried to have Pete Buttigieg extradited to be tried for homosexuality because it's illegal there. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think it's quite the same thing because he didn't necessarily commit the crime in Iran against Iran. That's, again, and release stuff.
I mean, Julian didn't necessarily.
Well, he would consider it again.
It's just there's an international internet.
It was again right. Embarrassed. Spike Cohen, who was the Libertarian VP nominee in 2020, says that they want to crush actual journalism. Julian Assange did in the U.S. what American journalists do in other countries all the time. He received information from a whistleblower and he released it to the public. Unlike many other journalists, he didn't editorialize it and try to color it with his opinion. He just released everything he got. It's the purest and most trustworthy form of journalism there is, which explains why nothing that WikiLeaks has released has ever been disproven. Compare that to the record of the corporate media. Amen, Spike Cohen. Okay, and that's why the U.S. government, under both Republican and Democrat control, have fought to get their hands on him. They want to crush actual journalism and fully replace it with the corporatist propaganda that increasingly passes for journalism nowadays, because they don't have anything else. Julian Assange has done nothing wrong, and everyone who values being able to know what their government is up to should stand with us to demand Julian's release and freedom. Hell yeah. Thank you, Eliza, for publishing all these statements, really. And again, this is why we're going through them. I know it would take a little while. Phil Labonte, lead singer of the metalcore band. I don't know who all that remains. He's got a statement here. Persecution of Julian Assange by the establishment is unconscionable. The only reason he had to request asylum from the U.S. government is because the information released by WikiLeaks has embarrassed people in positions of power. The fact that he's not capable of traveling freely is the most damning evidence available that the West has forsaken its most fundamental ideals. The right of people to speak freely and openly is fundamental to a liberal society, and until Assange has been released, Western governments cannot honestly say they remain true to the values and principles they claim to be founded on.
Hey, Dave DeCamp. I know that guy. Anti-war guy, right?
Friend of the show, Dave DeCamp, news editor at antiwar.com. Follow antiwar.com and news with Dave DeCamp at antiwar.com on YouTube. He started a channel pretty recently. Said, quote, the plight of Julian Assange should be at the forefront of every journalist's mind. If he's extradited to the U.S. and convicted for exposing U.S. war crimes, it will set a precedent that anyone who publishes information the government doesn't want to be revealed could be sent to prison. But instead, Assange has been vilified by Western media thanks to a massive propaganda campaign, even as he's being tortured in Belmarsh. As UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Nils Melzer, has detailed extensively. We're back to Eliza's statement here. Quote,
okay.
Saturday, October 8th, as part of a historic global day of action, I will be in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Justice from noon to 3 p.m. for a rally in support of journalist and publisher Julian Assange. I am one of the speakers that day, along with DeCamp. Again, that's Eliza Bleu, not me. I cannot remain silent. I'd encourage you to attend, and if you are not in the United States, please think about attending a similar solidarity event in your area that day. You could also support free speech and free press by informing others about the Julian Assange case through social media, local media, and word of mouth. This is an issue that impacts all of us, and I thank those of you who choose to participate in securing your own freedoms. Wow. I didn't think I was going to get through that, but I did. Yeah, big clap. Your golf clap isn't being heard. It must be getting filtered out, but
it's just the best golf clap in the world.
Man, she's
awesome. You
awesome.
don't want to hear a golf clap.
Eliza Bleu, courageous as hell. Friend of the show, friend of Tara Reid.
She's been talking about one of her friends who did the Jimmy Savile documentary.
Yes,
is like sitting on another story. Which, like, dude, don't sit on that. Just hurry up, bro.
Yeah, what
you know?
Well, they got to get their shit together before they release shit like that, because
apparently the talked about the person might have to die before the fucking thing could come out.
Okay.